Footloose was one of the greatest movies of all time. Kevin Bacon, John Lithgow, Diane Wiest, the guy who played Chuck. That movie was fantastic, and it was a fantastic soundtrack. But what was it really about? Was it a dancing movie? Or was it a movie about legalism? Most people don't become legalistic because they hate God. They become legalistic because they're afraid. And once fear becomes the thing that's leading you, it starts creating rules God never created. And that's exactly what Footloose is really about. Most people remember Footloose as a movie about dancing, but that's not the story. That's the backdrop. The real story is much darker and much more personal because it isn't about dancing. It's about what happens when pain starts making decisions. A group of teenagers die. Families are shattered. Parents are grieving. A town is traumatized, and in the middle of that pain, people start looking for something to blame. And that's where things get dangerous, because when human beings suffer, we desperately want to regain control. We want certainty. We want guarantees. We want to believe that if we can just eliminate the right thing, the pain will never happen again. So the town bans dancing. Not because dancing killed anyone, not because the Bible forbids it, but because dancing became associated with the thing that hurt them. And that right there is how legalism is born. Now, before we start pointing fingers, let me ask you something. Have you ever done this? Have you ever created your own rules because you were scared? Have you ever decided, I'll never trust again? I'll never take that risk again. I'll never let that happen again. Most legalism doesn't start with pride. It starts with wounds. And here's what makes the movie fascinating. Ren, Kevin Bacon, doesn't attack Christianity. He doesn't attack the Bible. He doesn't attack faith. He opens Scripture. Ecclesiastes says there is a time to mourn and a time to dance. David danced before the Lord with all his might. The Psalms speak about praising God through dancing. The Bible never treats joy as the enemy. People do. Fear does. Trauma does. But God doesn't. And this is where the movie accidentally becomes a sermon. Because the pastor isn't evil. He's grieving. That's different. He's trying to protect people. That's understandable. The problem isn't his desire to protect. The problem is what happened next. Protection slowly became control. Control slowly became policy. Policy slowly became righteousness. And eventually, people started treating human rules like they came from God. And if that sounds familiar, it should. Because that's exactly what Jesus confronted. The religious leaders, the Pharisees of his day, loved their rules. They had rules for washing, rules for eating, rules for the Sabbath, rules for everything. Not because all of them were evil. Many started with good intentions. Many were trying to honor God. Many were trying to protect people. But somewhere along the way, they started trusting the rules more than the God the rules were supposed to point toward. And just like that, Jesus ended up challenging them constantly. Because holiness isn't produced by endless restrictions. Holiness comes from a transformed heart. But here's where most people get this wrong. The answer isn't rebellion. The answer isn't no rules, no standards, no boundaries. That's not wisdom either. Freedom can become destruction. The Bible warns about that repeatedly. Paul tells believers not to use freedom as an excuse for sin. Because freedom without wisdom destroys lives, and legalism without grace destroys souls. That's the tension. That's the struggle. That's the part nobody wants. Because we'd rather have a simple answer: more rules, or no rules. Jesus offers neither. He offers transformation, and transformation is harder. Because now the question isn't, what am I allowed to do? The question becomes, who am I becoming? Maybe that's why Footloose still resonates. Not because people care about dancing, but because everyone knows what it feels like to live under rules that miss the point. Everyone knows what it feels like to be controlled by fear, and everyone knows what it feels like to mistake safety for righteousness. The pastor thought he was protecting the town, but what he was really doing was trying to heal a spiritual wound with a policy. And policies can't heal wounds. Only truth can. Only grace can. Only God can. So here's the real question. Not whether dancing is right or wrong. Not whether Footloose got everything right. What rules have you elevated to the level of God's commands? What fears are shaping your faith? What fences are you trusting more than Christ? Because legalism doesn't begin when we love rules. It begins when we stop trusting God. Father, show us where fear has become our guide. Show us where we've trusted rules more than transformation. Give us wisdom without legalism, freedom without compromise, and hearts that love you more than control. So be it. May the truth set us all free.